like to share what they talked about? Some of their reflections on this?
Yeah, I'll start. we thought that even though you can think that I'm not in first row anymore, maybe in the end of the second row or something like that, you can never neglect the first things that you come from, because if you make a really structured offense, it will not stay that for 20 years. You need to work on that each and every time. So, yeah.
Yes. So you need to maintain your throwing, your
yes.
And you need to spend time as a team maintaining that, for sure. Who else?
I had a comment, for example, in Tartu there's, in our team there's quite a big influx, or quite often we have new players coming in, so it's not like a linear progression of the team is in some stage of the progress. You have people from every stage, so there are people who are like EU champions, and then there's people who are playing for the first time in their lives. So like having trainings in that sense is quite difficult, because you have a little bit of all of these problems that you brought out.
Yeah, that's a really big one. I think we can all relate, especially like if there's one team in your city, then you know it's tough, right? You have some players that are good and you know want to get really better, but there's so few of you, so you need to have also the beginners starting, and then you are always somewhere all over the place, because some players, you know, they want to move towards here somehow, but then you need to teach someone to throw forehand at the same time. It's really hard as a team to work with the different like skill levels, and to be honest, like you can't really move here with that format, unless you say we're not going to take any more beginners, which is fun for maybe a few years until your team dies, or the better way is that you just need to have more teams. Like if it's your club, you need to have 2 teams. You need to have a more beginner team, and you need to have a more advanced team. Or if it's a city, then maybe you can get away that your team in this city is the more advanced team, and then there's another team in the city that is the more beginner one. But it's a really tricky one.
It's a tricky one, because not every time you have all the players who are willing to go for that trophy. They just want to have fun, like beginners all the way to pick-up players, but they want to come to your practice, but they never want to be the first. So that's why you need to have like 2 teams or 2 sessions at least.
Yes, great. More reflections?
For me, the small roster, like how to combat it, you know, because that's been our pain for so long. Like all the time I've been playing, it's been 15 years, you know. So like the small roster, the only way we have done it with Latvia at least is that you need to be really smart. You need to be able to switch. You need to be able to like talk to each other on the field and actually like play smarter than the opposite team. That's the only way you can grow out of the small roster while still remaining in the small roster. And that's the only way you can go to the next line, in my opinion, about this small roster thing.
But I mean, that's an excellent way to think about it, right? Because as a team, you know, you wanna get there, and you are reflective enough that you understand that you have this problem that you just can't get rid of. You will have a small roster. So then, you know, how do you adjust your tactics? How do you adjust your preparation? Everything, so that you increase your chances to still win. It's very important.
I think that's one of the only things that you can't do by yourself. So everything else, like you learn your forehand, you can fix the structure, but you can't make people. So you can't. It's going to take some time to get new players, like 18 years or something. So, like, in that sense, like, it's something that you can't combat right away. It's an ongoing process.
Yes. I would say that I want to add on that what small rosters also make it a bit tougher. It makes it a bit harder to practice pressure at trainings, because there's just less of you, so you are more tired. And it can also be harder to actually practice anything tactical, because if you want to play outdoor and you are less than 14 people at practice, then you can't practice very well all the tactical things. So it's a really tough one. So
I think in Estonia, like with the seasons, it's also like you always go a bit back. Like when outdoor season starts, then you like kind of start from the beginning. You start to throw outdoors and like learn the wind and everything, and then you go indoors, and then you have to adjust there. And I think that's the other thing as well that makes it tough as well, like progression.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Good. Anything more?
I feel like the progression is also linear, so it becomes exponentially harder in the end. So you can practice the first row, maybe the second half of the second row in your own team, but going further, you have to really sort of play against other teams, play against other clubs to gain the knowledge of your team, how you work together. So I feel like the effort you put in has to constantly keep being higher than previous steps.
Yeah, for sure. And you need sort of more resources. You need those other teams also, and you need to go find them and play against them. For sure. Nice. Anything more?
Maybe already Q&A thing, but about this risky throws, how do you how do you fix this? How do you make people? I know it's a hard question, but do you have any experience from US or something
for sure.
like that?
Yes. So I think that this is so how to fix any problem. What is the step one? Acknowledge that there's a problem. And I think that's where the lot of problems are, and like never leave. That maybe the problem is not acknowledged. I think that in my experience, at least, often the players that are doing the risky throws, there's a difference of opinion, what they think and what maybe the others think. And you need to somehow bridge this gap, because I think often the players who are doing the risky throws, they see a bit less. They sort of notice it a bit less, and they have a long list of arguments why this decision was a good one. So it really starts with acknowledgement. But I think you can, as a coach or a leader of a team, or just someone who wants to, somehow improve it in your team. Like if you are able to use data, like I think that can really help. So if you have, you can mark mistakes, right? You can actually keep statistics at your trainings. So every time when somebody makes a mistake, a throwing mistake, for example, you mark it, and then you share it, right? And then you can see that there's some players who all the time are in the top of the list. And that creates some realization on themselves, but also is a good foundation for then a dialogue between the coach or someone, a leader in the team, and saying, hey, maybe we can do something here. And then you can sort of have that individual talk and discussion, and then you can also do it in a team way, right? You can actually have a team discussion and say, look, like we are turning it over quite a bit in offense. Maybe we want to improve that, and then how do you improve that? And then, but it can also be that this person that throws away a lot is sort of, in a way, asked to do it in the team, because they are maybe the best thrower, and there's really bad options available for that player, so they are, doing their best with the bad options they have. And then it's actually about improving the options. So you are having better systems, you are creating higher percentage chances, easier chances. It can also be the tactics. Maybe you have chosen in a team a tactic that sort of relies a lot on a thrower making a good long throw. And if that is not succeeding well enough, perhaps you are better off with a tactics that actually relies on a lot of smaller throws as a team. So there's a few different ways, but I think it's really tough. And in a way, I think that the players that like to take their chances, they will still take their chances. Like I haven't seen a complete turnaround really, but I think that people can change quite a bit still. Somebody who has thrown away a lot, they throw it away very rarely. And there's also an upside of being a risky thrower. And usually the upside is that you forget your mistakes faster. And there's also, you know, there's a negative sort of opposite side. You sometimes have players who are too scared with throwing. And that can be a challenge as well. Like they are scared about making a mistake. That was a long, weird answer. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
You know, pretty good. Yes. Okay. Anything more? Let's move on. So, let's talk about indoor ultimate. So now we're going to talk about some technical things, and this is going to be my opinion, how I think it's smart to play indoor ultimate. So you might have a different opinion, that's totally okay. So first of all, defense. So what I claim is that person defense is better than zone defense indoor on a very high level. And the reason for that is that zone defenses indoor cannot generate enough pressure because there's no help from the wind. That means that a very good team will in the end always score against zones because there's no pressure, they just take their time, they find that opening which will inevitably at some point come and they will score. So on a very high level, zone defense is sort of not really, how to say, that successful as your main defensive tactics indoor, in my opinion. It's not true for sure on all levels. If you are on the levels where there's some of these teams around who are struggling against a zone, then for sure, like, zone is a nice and easy way to take advantage of that. But on a high level, I think it needs to be person defense. It doesn't mean that you can't on a high level use zone. You can use it to just change things up, to sort of surprise the other team. You know, you play 1 point of zone or maybe 2 points of zone in a row, because it does make the other team, like, they have to adjust to that, like, because it's another look. And sometimes you get your 1 turnover from that, and that's enough. Like, that was your whole plan. Your whole plan was to just get 1 turnover from the other team by playing 1 or 2 points of zone, and you got that turnover, and hopefully you made good use of that, and that was good enough. Thoughts on this? Do you agree? Disagree?
I agree. Yeah. In big picture, I agree. Yeah. If you play man-on-man, there's a lot of situations where there will be 1v1 situations in big portion of the field. With the zone defense, then there may be 1 versus 2, or the offense might be against 2 players. So if you play man-D, then you need to actively poach or actively leave your offense player to go and help. Otherwise, in zone defense, we have players for that. We have structure for that.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. If there is a mismatch, then it comes out in man-on-man more easily, I think.
Yeah. Yes. And it's a funny one because you can't just like say, okay, I'll just become a great team, so I just skip zone defense. You can't skip it because then the other team might play it against you, and you need to know how to beat it. And if you already need to learn how to beat it, the only way how you can do it really is in training, so you also need to know how to play it, so in order to practice how to beat it. So in a way, it's something that you need to learn to become really good, but if you watch a high-level game, the zone is not played. So it's a strange one a bit, but that's how it is. So in person defense, I would say that the most effective way is to force backhand, and that is because most players are right-handed and they throw their hammers with their right hand. So if you force them forehand, then it's really hard to ever defend the hammer because it's just released so high. Like, you just go as tall as you can and then you throw that hammer Like it's so hard, so if someone comes up here and like he just tries really hard and you know, he just can't do it. He has to jump and he has to time this jump perfectly and this stuff. So so that's why forcing backhand is just in general the way to do it indoor, in my opinion. It doesn't mean that you should never force forehand. Yes, you should. You should sometimes do it to, again, change something, to force the other team to play in a different way. Again, maybe just to get that one turnover, and you get that one turnover, and that's good enough for you. Or there could be some certain threats that you consider are bigger than, on average, than being able to throw hammers. Maybe they have some very good lefty throwers, and you know they're just when you force the backhand, they're just breaking you all the time with their lefty hammers. So that's why you start to now force them forehand. Or maybe they are, you know, like maybe they are an outdoor team playing indoor. So like let's say GB playing indoor. You know, they don't really throw hammers and blades. They just throw backhand give and goes. So you do a lot of give and goes. So I know I've told this to some of you, but if you want to stop a team who's very good at give and goes, then it's better to force them forehand versus backhand. And that is because it is easier to do give and goes on the backhand side because it's more natural. You throw and you go right away. In forehand, it's a little bit different. You need to sort of pull this back and you need to throw and go. You can do it. You can do give and goes on the forehand side, but on average teams are worse at it. It's probably, if you analyze it, I'm sure somehow body-wise it just takes more time to do it forehand side. So if you play against a team that's even indoor doing very good give and goes and you want to try something against it, then you can force them forehand. Let's see, did I write anything more? Not really. Okay, thoughts on that? Forces. Backhand or forehand? Or something else?
I'm having a hard time fully agreeing, just because I think, well, yeah, if you're like everybody on your team is shorter than the other team, then forcing forehand is bad because you can never stop the hammers. But I think just because when you're forcing backhand, there is the scuba and the blade, it's impossible to stop both. I think it levels the playing field. Whereas when it's forehand force, the break throw is pretty much always a hammer, so you can like hyper focus on it. And the inside throws or like other throws aren't as dangerous. So I feel like it's harder to really take away the break throws on a backhand force actually. At least for me, maybe it's just because I'm usually taller than the mark, but I don't know.
Yes.
From my side, I feel that's the way it is.
I think it's a good point, and because when you are forcing backhand, you often have to choose which of these break throws you take away. Like you're either trying to actively take away the blade, or you're trying to actively take away the scuba. You can't sort of take away both when you play against a really good player. So I can see the point of view. I think that the scubers do have a higher tendency to fail. Like let's say the blades, for example. Maybe that's just because players are just a bit worse at them. But there's also some of it that it is a bit more like an inside throw. Like the defender has a bit more chances often to try to make a play on that scuba. Because the blade comes sort of outside really. It's like really the defender isn't on the way. The scuba, you have to put it outside, and if you're not so good at putting it outside, then the defense can make a play in it. Yes? Some more thoughts? You're forcing? Alright. So, when you play person D, then in my opinion, there's really only two good ways to play it indoor. If you have some more ways, I'll ask you that in a second. So one is simple. Everyone just plays really tight on everyone. That is often how it's actually just played on a high level. Everyone's really tight on everyone. And then people do their individual stuff when they can. And the other one is to play poach from the break side dump and help to defend the cutters on the break side. So just to visualize it, I have talked to some of you about it, and maybe some of you know it anyway, but some of you maybe don't. So let's say offense is going that way. Let's make it an end zone situation. So offense has 2 people in the end zone. They have 3 handlers. The disc is in the middle. We are forcing, defense is forcing backhand. So in this situation, like the risky place or the most dangerous spot is here, right? This is the worry. That this player here in the middle will either throw one of those break throws, either the blade and put it up here, or the scuba and put it up here to this back player here. And this defender can be, you know, amazing, can even be like 20% better than this player, but as long as the throw is put away there in a good way, there's no way the defense can make a play on that. So the poach from the break side dump means that, so if there is a dump on the break side, which right now there is, this dump is on the break side. Right? We are forcing backhand, so this is the forehand side. So if there is a dump on the break side, then this defender here is not playing them tight, but is instead helping out and is going back here and is somewhere, let's say, around here. So this player is ready in case the break throw goes, then they have a chance to make a play. Like this is in a nutshell what the break side dump is. Break side poach. This is a poach from the break side dump. Any questions so far? Does everyone like understand where the players are on the field? What am I showing? If you don't see it, then let me know.
In that situation, you would always prefer to have this poach there, not dividing the players, like one taking up one side, one taking other side.
So yeah, like what Crystal is saying is that, okay, maybe you could have another way. Maybe you could defend these 2 people in this way. So that's the way how you deal with it. I think that, like my experience is that it is really tough to execute this well against a strong team, because as offense you can, like as soon as you recognize this as offensive cutters, you have very effective ways how to deal with it. Like you can try to split what you should is you should stretch one defender somehow, right? You can either do it in a way that this player comes out and receives the disc here. So you know this player has to now choose. If they follow, then they leave this player open here on the open side. If they stay, then this player gets it right here in front of the end zone. Or you know, this player can sort of cut more here to the corner of the end zone, and this player can more cut to the back of the end zone. And I guess this player has to choose, are they guarding this one and that one, and one of them is always free. So I would say that against sort of good teams, these cutters will immediately recognize that you are sort of bracketing, and they will right away take advantage of that, and you will end up somehow in a pretty bad spot. So I think on a constant basis, yes, I think that the strategy to do the break side poach is better, or just to play tight on everyone as well is better.
And now when this dump goes diagonally?
Yes. So now we should talk about what happens at different times, right? So the easiest thing that could happen is that this team recognizes that there's a poach. This player maybe also says, I'm poached. And then they throw a quick blade here to this player. So now this player has the disc. And this player, you know, was here. So as soon as the disc is starting to be thrown, what this poach should do is that this poach should run here to put up a mark. Because if they don't, if they are like slow at putting up the mark and they are still here, then this player will just make the break throw. And then there's a score. So basically, if the disc goes here, this player needs to do whatever they can to make sure that the break throw doesn't go up there. The best is that they run really fast there. I have to say there is also another way, which is if you have somehow have missed your timing completely and you, I don't know, didn't see it or whatever. The other way is that you just stay there. That's another option. So let's say for some reason something happened and you didn't sprint down there. Like the worst is to be here. Like if you're here, then you're not doing anything. The best is to be guarding, and if for some reason something happened and you didn't go there, then just stay here in the end zone. Make sure that this throw doesn't go up there, and wait when the next throw goes, and then pick up your player. That's also an option, but that's not a primary option. Best is you go there. Okay, so that's option 1. Questions about option 1? No. Okay.
I actually have a question. What's the best thing to do if the offensive player that's now open goes up the line?
Yes, great. That will be option 2. I'll say that in a second. But anything more about option 1 when the disc is being thrown here?
I feel like at least for women, if we would do that, they would for sure get the disc and throw a blade over.
Yeah, you would not be able to put up the mark.
No. I'm pretty sure, because like, also I don't know why it's that when we start poaching the lines, people kind of stay in these poaches. They don't come back that fast as they should.
Yes.
So it feels like it wouldn't work for us, but probably in high-level teams, yeah, that would be a perfect solution.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, we'll go and do it on the field as well. But basically, this player should be sprinting as fast as they can in and out of that poach. They're not sort of going 50% and 60%, because there's only 2 right places to be, here and here. Every time they're in the middle, they're not doing anything. They are in the wrong place. So they should be sprinting. So if that throw goes up, they sprint full speed. They maybe even go and jump when they put on the mark. Like Robin is getting the disc. I'm not even running there. I'm so worried about that blade. I'm even like jumping in place. So I'm even putting more pressure there. Right? Okay. Yes. Anything more about that option 1?
If the post defender stays in the end zone and doesn't make it back, do they ever leave the end zone, or they're guarding that space now? So if they move, they're giving up free space. They don't want to do that. So at what point do they change their position?
So the easiest would be once that person has thrown the disc to someone else, then they go and run to that player, because then the okay, not actually always, now that I think about it. I mean, they should stay here as long as they are guarding the break side dump. If their player, like let's say this happens, the disc goes here, and then it just goes back. Okay, you just stay there. Then you're still in the right place. But often what happens is that once that player throws away the disc, they start running somewhere. They start going here or wherever, and then you need to follow. I mean, that's what happens most of the time. So once they throw away the disc, you go and pick them up and play person-to-person defense. But if they truly stay there and you are still guarding the break side dump, then you continue poaching. Does that make sense? No.
Yeah, I think so. But they're also like, it's the moment when you're trying to catch up with the open, or like the dump without the defender, you're still leaving the space behind you open again.
Yes.
So it's still dangerous.
It is dangerous, yes. But maybe I'll talk about option 2, because you do have to leave this space when this player starts running to a dangerous spot. And that is that if this player wants to be a threat running, then the best is that they try to cut to the open side. Okay? Because this throw is on, because the mark is not defending it, and the defender is coming far. So when you are poaching here and you are seeing that the player you are poaching from is starting to attack that open side upline, you need to leave this spot immediately and pick them up. Okay? You are only poaching while your player is being the break side dump. As soon as your player starts to not be the break side dump or starts to go away from that spot, you go and pick them up. And you start playing just person-person defense. Okay? So it's sort of only the opportunistic way is that, as you know, if anyone has a break side dump, then they're poaching, and as soon as they are not the break side dump anymore, then they're playing person-person. So you're here, this person starts to make the first steps that way, you know, you are starting to meet them here. You are starting to, you know, go and pick them up. So you don't let them get the disc anywhere here. You definitely don't want to get them disc in front or in the end zone. You know, you probably can't stop it if they want to get the disc here, you know, you can't stop that. They're going to get the disc there, even if you're really fast. But you are at least trying to minimize the amount of meters they're going to win. So if the player goes upline, then you leave your space. If a player does something more strange, like goes here, then you can stay here. Okay? Then it's still fine. They are not a threat. Okay, questions about this scenario? The dump is going away from their spot.
Wouldn't leaving the spot for the empty space for the break proposal would hit the end zone?
Yes, it would leave it open, yeah.
Okay.
Right? But this player is now a bigger threat when they go here. So
okay.
you take away now a threat that is even bigger. A free player just on the open side.
High-level team would make like a switch or not. Like the marker would go defend the open or not.
I haven't played in a team that would do it. I can't remember playing against a team that would do it. But it's definitely possible. I mean, but that would require this marker here to be aware that this player starts to go up. So they sort of have to, while marking, kind of look there. So just that we are all on the same page, so what Crystal is suggesting, that this player is starting to cut here, and when they do, then this player picks them up, and this defender is running here and putting on the mark instead. Right?
Yep, that's what I was thinking.
Yes.
I believe this switch is more dangerous than if you would switch from the first from the stack. First from the stack. If really the dump is attacking the open end zone corner, and the first from the stack takes over, and the coach leaves his spot but takes the first one from the stack. So maybe they bracket the two players or just plain switch. Here. Yeah.
This one goes here. This one goes.
It's not that dangerous if they go as you threw it now, because he's not attacking the end zone. But if they really go for the point, then the first one from the stack is like 3 meters away and is the easy option. Usually the throw to that space is not the too sharp one, because they seem to be wide open. They don't put it like a bloody backhand. So there is a really good amount of chances that you can cut it through, or just at least challenge the player.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Like this switch is somehow even surprising for the other team, and you can actually get it through.
But you need to be really reactive from the stack defense.
So I can't think of a way why this is a bad idea right now. I haven't tried it. I think it will be fun to try it. I think it does require quite a lot from your players. Like, it requires even more than just doing this poacher thing. It also requires you to know that when you are in these spots, then you are ready to switch with the player that poaches. But I think it's doable to practice that. So if you want to play around with it in your team, see if, just try it in practice, see if you can make the switch work. I think it could be a cool way to do it, and I think that it could even work potentially if it's just one person in the end zone. Like, I think even then you could maybe, when this player goes here, then you just, do it like this. But it's harder.
It depends on the situation. Maybe you can utilize the open side under defense also. The one on the left hand side, maybe they can fall back, take away. So it depends on the angle of throw and where the others are. Where they are cutting it. So.
But I definitely recommend, if you want to do this in your team, start on level 1. Level 1 is no switching. It's just this one player that sometimes is guarding tight and sometimes it is just catching up, right? Yeah.
Is it gonna be different in mixed? I mean, if like in the break side, put a tiny girl and the back player is like Orlovsky's, I'm still gonna throw it up there, and it doesn't really matter, right? So
I think that I think that it's still fine to do.
It's still fine? Okay.
I think it's still fine because sometimes this player doesn't see the poach. Like sometimes that's how the turn comes. They just don't see it. They don't anticipate it. They just I'll just put something there. And if they they actually had a choice. If they would have thought about it, they would have put it here high. But now they're just putting it there, and then the poach just comes because this poach isn't always standing there when the throw is being made. Sometimes this player is only got to the position and is kind of on their way there. So when you're a thrower, you don't even see that there's a poach unless you are expecting and looking out for it. So some of these turnovers you get as a freebie, like just the thrower doesn't see and it's just. So I will still do it. I think yes, you can think of some examples where it's less effective, such as a shorter girl is here, and of course there's less limitations to what they can defend, but it still takes away some of the opportunity that offense has, and you have a high probability of getting a turn. Yes? More thoughts on this?
I think the switch that we talked about in the zone, like the one with from the stack, the defense takes the upcut and then you take the person. I think we've done it in Salzburg sometimes because it kind of feels like you would like to do that. It makes sense. But as it's a surprise for the offense, it's a surprise also for defense. So you kind of fuck up in some ways because you think, oh, that was a cool switch, but then you just missed something. I don't know, like we've tried it a lot and it feels like it's just as big of a surprise for you as it was for the other team, and that's why there's some kind of miscommunication always. So I guess it really needs to be trained in trainings, not to just do the switch randomly. As you said, start from zero and really go for it because we do it just because it feels easy, but then it's actually not as easy as what comes later, because you are all kind of in a weird position. You
have this person has left their player, and this person has to react the right way, and these players, they're not standing in one place.
I suppose it also leaves the offense it means the offense can also surprise you more with their moves because it's something new to them as well, which means that you can't expect what they're usually doing.
But as long as the cut going in is 100% a point, and you take away the first throw, that's a win already. So if they have to look for another option, change the throw, that's a new situation. It gives you more time. Even if you fuck up. Then
no, of course. Yeah. But if we talk that if you stay in the same position, that's a bit more safe in some ways than to switch and then you kind of all are in question marks. That was my point. Of course, it's cool that you take away the cut. That makes sense.
Yes. Good. More questions, thoughts?
What's the downside if you're using the left-handed defense for defending the left zone?
Sorry, one more time.
There's a left-handed handler defense. What's the downside of using him instead, going to the
this one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's a very nice question. I was actually thinking if I should also, because sometimes people say, "Hey, why don't we poach from the open side dump?" Which is a very valid question. You do it outdoors. Why wouldn't do it indoors? I just think it has much less value indoors because the thing is that open side. So just to visualize. So you can either poach here to block some throwing lane, or poach here. You are talking about this one, yeah? Yeah. Poaching in the end zone, right?
No, I mean if this left or right
hand
is running.
Switching.
Yeah, okay, never mind. You're talking about switching. Now I got it. Okay, so you are thinking, why don't we use this defender here to be helping out when this player comes in, right? I think that this will create like quite a easy option for the offense to start to move the disc and really like create damage with that. And that's also the reason why in general I don't like the open side dumps indoor, because whenever this player isn't playing honest, like as offense, I believe you should just always hit this open player and do like a give and go move, and you just put the disc to move, and it's really hard for the defense to catch up. So if this player would be coming off, so this player is starting to streak across, this player is coming off, is picking them up, then I think what I would try is just throw here, and then do give and go, and probably this defender can't follow me, and then we just score here. You can also think of some other ways how this player can maybe go and get the disc earlier, but I think this player, like we don't want to leave the open side dump free. I think that just the good team will just start to move the disc, and just flow will follow, and defense has a hard time. But it's a good question, because why not, right? They could do it, but I think that the cost is higher than the other options. Yes? Good? More questions on this? Nope. Let me just see if we've covered it all. Yes. So remember, you can mix around with it. You can do it. You don't have to play it all the time. You can play some points when you play it. You can play some points when you don't play it. You can have some teams you play against in this way, and some teams where you don't play. Like let's say if you play like the GB team, like there's no reason to play this, because they never throw the break throw. They like to do a lot of give and goes, so they'll just get an even easier job to do give and goes. But if you play like a Dutch team that just always likes to isolate their players and hit them on the break side, then for sure do this, because they are just used to being tall and just getting away with good throws and good catches. So make them try to beat you with running instead. So it depends on the team you play against. Okay. So I have a few more things on defense, but I think we should go to the hall. I think we've been here for a while. So the plan now is that we're going to go, and I will just visualize this with players on the field, this approach from the break side dump, so we're all on the same page, and then maybe you get a few more questions when you see it live. We won't really be playing through it, but I'll just visualize it with players. Does that sound good? So if you need to go to toilet, and we meet in the hall, and we start in about 3-4 minutes.